Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed and we are reading the philosophical midwifery book together. Changed. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you here. Changed a few audio things in the last week, so I hope it sounds okay. Jumping into the text. Good on your end. Oh, fantastic. Let me know if if the music is too quiet or too loud as well. So, we are in chapter 2 of the philosophical midwifery book. Awesome. Thank you. So we can evolve as human beings because the hypothesis is from our friends Socrates, Parmenides, and the author of this book, Pierre Grimes. The hypothesis is our next stage of evolution is to move into what is called by Parmenides the third hypothesis, or an understanding and mastery of the logos. The logos is the understandable, it's a question we have, what exactly is the logos? But in brief, it's the understandable paradigm of reality that will allow us to understand our own mind, our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own functioning, and why we have the problems we have. So we want to understand our problems, we want to remove them for ourselves so we can overcome our repeating cycles of failure. We can overcome the suffering that comes along with that individually. And if enough of us get on board and start sharing our experiences, sharing our insights, and helping others to learn, maybe we can evolve as a species and potentially even save our species from its own extinction, which is something that will inevitably happen if we allow the pathologos, the cause of our problems, to remain in charge of our species. So we will, in one way of saying it, we will overcome the Nazi arc of humanity. In chapter 1, it started with the author fighting the literal Nazis in literal World War II and realizing this.
No one seems to be learning or growing or addressing actual problems.
No one seems to be learning or growing or solving actual problems. And we wonder why. Our author, Pierre Grimes, wondered why. And this is what he left us with. He passed away last year, sadly. But he left us with a handbook that we can use to understand problems, understand why problems keep repeating, understand what we're not learning, and how to understand how to do those things we are needing to do. Therefore, it's not a big jump to follow that to the conclusion, oh heck, if we are not solving problems and learning to master the logos and pathologos is how to solve problems, maybe we're not solving problems because we have yet to do that. Now, last time we did a bit of a timeline to introduce some basic understanding of the history. If it can be shown that Socrates and his teacher Parmenides and Parmenides' teacher Xenophanes, and before Xenophanes even Homer, who wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, if these people knew about the pathologos, knew about the significance of dream analysis, and if Socrates spent his whole life telling us, you guys need to master the logos, if you don't reach that, you're not going to reach reality, you're not going to know yourself, and you'll be chained to the repeating cycles of your problems. And imprisoned in repeating cycles of reincarnation, if you're lucky. You guys better get on this. If Socrates said this 2,500 years ago. Why is it that
no one seems to be learning or growing or addressing actual problems?
why are we not addressing actual problems? Why are we not doing it? So we talked about their history and asked the question, what happened between Socrates and the person whose pathologos our current educational system is based on? Aristotle. What happened between Socrates and Aristotle such that the teachings and the understanding of the logos and pathologos has been lost? And we have spent the last 2,500 years embracing ignorance, cruelty, harm, beliefs over understanding, tyranny. In other words, why are we still in the Nazi arc of humanity? So, that was a bit of a history that will help put what we're doing in context, because we are rediscovering or reawakening something that has been shared to us. And of course, the more we learn about the pathologos itself and how it functions to block our development, how it functions to block our learning and mastery of the art of the logos, the more we can recognize how that has also played out in history. If Socrates shared the logos, why has our reaction been a counter-attack to it? And can our understanding of that help us to understand the pathologos itself? Hopefully, yes. Now, we are in chapter 2, so we've already talked about the introduction, of course, the life of the great author, Pierre Grimes, who met many people, lived a very interesting life, excellent life, and what led him to discover the nature of human problems, how to understand them, and how to solve them. And then in chapter 2, we're looking at the different parts of understanding the different parts of the pathologos. The nature of the pathologos, we've covered the condition. Mess with my lighting a little bit bright. There we go. The amnesia, our forgetfulness. The wordlessness of the transmission, we didn't put words on it. One of the other definitions of the logos is words. We didn't put words on our origin scene. And that's one of the reasons why we have amnesia. We don't know the false belief we are carrying about ourselves and reality. That is causing our problems. That we are specifically here to discover as living human beings with the capacity to, number one, share in the logos. We can think, we can reason, we can talk, we can understand. Which is another reason why you should join the Discord or the channel, or like and follow on Twitch and YouTube, because sharing in words is important. This isn't gossip. This is sharing words about what's most fundamental and what's most meaningful, significant, and helpful. So that kind of sharing of words is sharing in the logos. Now I say sharing instead of participating in the logos, because we're not taking a part. It's not like money or capitalism, physical things where you have to hoard it for yourself. It's mine. Oh, the logos is mine. Oh, I have all of the parts of the logos. Doesn't work that way. You share in the logos. It's open for everyone, which is fantastic. Everyone is sharing in the logos to some degree. However, the question is, to what degree? And to what degree is their pathologos, this guy here, distorting our understanding of self, logos, and reality, or blocking our ability to share in the understandable, caring intelligence of reality? Sharing in the logos. To what extent is our pathologos blocking our own sharing in the logos? amnesia, wordless transmission. So because we can share in the logos. Number one, because we can reflect on our own selves. We have what we need to solve problems, which is specifically mastering the art of the logos and the art of philosophical midwifery, how to go on the hunt for our unsuspected false beliefs about ourselves that limit and harm us. That's what we're doing here. Hooray! Hooray. This is very important because there are a lot of problems happening in the world and it can be very frustrating. Even the few good people out there who are reporting the facts accurately and are not being paid to lie, to brainwash people, to act against their own interests, even among those people, it can be frustrating because they don't seem to be able to understand the cause of the problem and therefore can't offer anything to solve the problem. That's what we're doing here. We're discovering that there is a solvable nature to our problems and that we are specifically here to learn that. And that will involve putting words on what we didn't put words on, and that will hopefully overcome our amnesia about where we got our problem from when we were young. We talked about blame and anger, the difference between blame and what we are doing, as well as the actual cause of anger. This puzzle we are here to solve about our pathologos. If we're not doing this game, if we're not in this game, we can project our images onto the world, onto people, imagine things, and then get angry at those things. And then use that anger as a justification for inflicting violence and torture and suffering and misery and harm. All of the same things that were done to us, we now have an excuse to do it to someone else. Do unto others the terrible shit that was done to you. That's the human condition. Why? Well, if you think that this is real, if you think there are only two roles, the pathologos bully and the one being crushed by that bully, then most people are motivated by the desire to play the knower, not the real knower that involves removing your pathologos and actually understanding the nature of knowledge itself, which is what we do in philosophy. Not that. That would require work and discipline and fun and talking with your friends and showing yourself and being honest. All of the things that a lot of people find difficult to do. No. Instead, I'm going to imitate the image of a knower, which was the arsehole. Arsehole's a harsh word. Which was, and also arseholes serve an important function. These people don't. Which was the tyranny modeled by our parental figures when we were young, when we were showing ourselves, when we were following our path, showing ourselves, using our self-logos, following our own goals. When we were in a good state when we were young, that's when our parental figures were triggered because, again, it's a cycle. It happened to them, and they finally show themselves and say, no, you shall not ask questions, or you shall not reflect, or you shall not blah, 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 and crushing the spirit of the individual. Unless we are in this game, we will become zombies who are looking to eat brains, only we're not eating brains, we're eating souls. We're looking for opportunities where we can crush other people because that gives us a sick, sadistic sense of superiority and a temporary alleviation from being the one who is being bullied, not by reality, but by the voice of our own pathologos we have failed to address. In other words, the voice, the random thoughts that come up to shoot ourselves down, to block us, are puzzle pieces. What we are learning is how to solve the puzzle. If we don't then we will project those voices onto others and try and attack them, which again gives us that feeling of, oh wow, look how great and knowing I am, to crap on someone, to crush someone. And this feeling must be what knowledge feels like. That's the problem. That's the issue. It isn't what knowledge feels like. It must be what knowledge feels like. And hang on a second, I'm no longer the one getting bullied by my own clues, internal voice that reflects the implications of our false belief. You suck. You're not good enough. You can't do it. Instead of addressing that problem, most human beings, whether they like it or not, are walking like zombies to gain some respite from that internal self-critic by crushing another person. We see that with racists, we see that with sexists, we see that with Nazis, we see that with Elon Musk, we see that with Trump, we see that with everyone in power who has not done this. Not everyone, of course. And we're not always in our pathologos, which is good, because that means we have, when we're not in that process of being the tyrant or tyrannizing ourselves, then we have an opportunity to learn about that and free ourselves from it. That's what we're doing here. And that involves understanding that that's all anger, by the way. A misdirection of the clues we are sent. So it's easy to see in the most pathologos-ridden people, like let's say right-wingers or fascists, or this sort of people of that level of problem. Famously, they will invent boogeymen. Oh, it's the woke. It's windmills. It's the immigrants. They will project their problems onto someone else who doesn't have the power to fight back, like a child doesn't have the power to fight back against a parent. Not because they're actually interested in solving problems, not because they're actually interested in learning or helping, but because they want a victim to crush. Because that's what they think it means to be a knower, to be enlightened, to be wise. It ain't. That's anger. We have to overcome that, and we're wondering, what are we doing that's different from that game? Now, we are in the next section, number 6. And 9 should be 7, of course. The struggle over discussing the pathologos. That's where we are in the text. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit behind in the chat. Let's catch up. I think part of it is illusion. Like, we follow the illusion of instant gratification, and our brains are hardwired into believing this illusion and accepting it as the way things are. I think the path to freeing yourself from illusion is actually quite painful due to the fact that we are so deep down by it by the time we realize we're in it. Right, and it does require virtue. It requires courage to stick at it. When you are in those painful moments, in those counterattacks, you are having some insights, you are having some growth, you are more in yourself, you have more access to your own functioning, your own natural functioning, you have more ability to share in the logos, but we have a counterattack. That can be painful. People can get ill as the pathologos tries to fight back against your own insight and seeing. That's important. In fact, the counterattack isn't in this section here. I think the counterattack has its own chapter. That's important. Yeah, and you do think it's the way that things are. Not only do we think it's the way that things are, we think it's the ideal. So our lives become a lesser reflection of the real thing. And that real thing was when our parents seemed most real and gave us their attention and said, don't trust women, or stop navel gazing, or whatever it was that they said or did. So we're uncovering that we are carrying a false analogy that equates reality and the life and people we interact with this origin scene. I better not show myself because when I was most real, when reality was most real, and I showed myself when I was 4 or 5, and I got shut down, that's going to happen to me if I show myself now. That's our life. In that way, we can understand the significance of being a somnambulist or a sleepwalker or a zombie. Because that's false. Not everyone is like your parents' pathologos. And even people with pathologos aren't in their pathologos all the time. And it's the most important thing to show yourself, follow your self goals with excellence. Talk about it as well. Act on it as well. Share it as well. Some people have a midlife, in the chat again, some people have midlife crisis as their brain calling them to say, this isn't the way. Yes, let's hope. Let's hope there are people like you out there who, when they're having this crisis, they'll say, hey, let's have a coffee. Cheers. And talk about what you are experiencing. What would you do if you could? What is your most significant goal that you've kept on the back burner? What would it be like to do it with excellence? And when you're asking these questions, when I'm asking these questions to you and you're thinking about it over coffee, because that's a good conversation to be having with a good friend, what thoughts and feelings come up that are negative? What gets in the way of you asking these questions or sharing in this kind of dialectic? And then, after you come home from coffee, jump into the Discord or jump into the comment section on YouTube and share with everyone else how it went. This is the noblest quest, the noblest game, the archetypal hero's journey, the greatest quest, the quest of all quests. You're not supposed to get it right straight away, but as you're saying, it can be uncomfortable or even painful. So keep practicing, keep jumping in. I feel a similar way about music, often because of my own history with my pathologos from my family. Well, not mine, my family's pathologos. Music can be very difficult. All of those things about not sharing in the logos. Well, there's lyrics in music. Not showing yourself. Well, you got to put yourself out there if you're going to sing a song to some people. Not talking about what's meaningful. Engage in drama and conflict and gossip instead. Well, songs are supposed to be meaningful. It's hard to sing things that are not meaningful to you. But if you're a musician, you play music anyway. And hopefully you have good friends that you can, after you've had the experience. Oh, okay, cool. Be right back. All right, I'll just kill time until you come back. Let me know when you're back. After you've had that experience of challenging yourself in the best possible way, as we said, the most important goals, trying to do it as best you can. Hopefully you've got some friends there to reflect on the experience. What went well? What didn't go well? What came up? And it's that reflection that is the most significant, because it's through that. It's through that which we learn through that. That's how we learn stuff. Midwifery, you could say, is a formalized, systematized way of understanding how to have that chat. How to have that conversation on what's most meaningful with someone who is genuinely interested in those things. Truth. Has to be truth, by the way. I'm not talking about excellence of being a capitalist or something like that. Or a fascist or something. No. Truth is the paradigm. You can only reach truth about self and reality and free yourself from what's false if you are genuinely motivated by truth. That can be painful because, as we read, the lovely pats on the head by our fascist leader when we toe the line for fascism, that can be a kind of pleasure that we're addicted to. There's a kind of image of unity that the family is bound by. Hey, we're all racist. That's how we know you're a Smith. You're racist against Eskimos. if that's the thing that the Smiths do. That's the stuff we have to sacrifice, and we're only going to sacrifice that if we are seeking truth, because it's not true. It's not true unity. It's not true understanding. It's not good. So you have to be motivated by truth. And after we do start having insights into our problem, and we do start having positive experiences, and we do start sharing our feedback in the chat. Hey, I know this guy or this girl who seems thoughtful and reflective and wonders about interesting questions, and I think maybe has even done some personal development courses. This is a perfect person to share the logos with and wonder together with them. Practice the dialectic. Share my own personal experiences with what it's been like to learn and practice the dialectic in midwifery. If you do say something like that to someone like that, we will raise our coffee mugs to you. And let us know how it goes. What worked, what didn't work. So you can reflect on your experiences, and we can all benefit from that too. And it's for those reasons that I will share sometimes my own personal experiences, like I just did about music, and how pathologos can affect music is an example of sharing my own experiences with what I've seen and experienced through going through midwifery. And so I encourage everyone who wants to do the same. And hopefully the more we do that and the more we practice facilitating that, fostering that, creating an environment where that can happen, I don't know, maybe the greater the community will develop. We'll evolve together. Glad you're back. So after we do start having these insights, we might want to start talking about the nature of the pathologos and the nature of the family problem we've been suffering from. And that's where we are now. The difficulties that come up when we want to discuss the pathologos. That's section 6. Chapter 2 of, they call it the Orange Sutra. Sutra because that's the word for like a spiritual text. And it is a spiritual text. And any other spiritual tradition that you're doing, you should really be doing this alongside it, because if you are following a spiritual method, you have spiritual goals. If those goals are genuine, then you'll probably face your pathologos blocks, which means this guy has to come in. Whether you want to be an expert NBA player or an expert meditator, it's the same. So cool. Some people have a midlife crisis, yep, and they don't know how to undo it all, especially if they have never experienced a logos path. Yep. Very good point. Yeah, that's key. Again, another reason to share your experiences. It can be difficult to remove your problems if you haven't even heard about such a thing as the logos and the pathologos. But lucky for us, we have heard about it. And we're doing it together. And it's fun. It's the most fun. I think one of the reasons it's most fun is like, it's just being yourself. But to the power of 10, like discovering yourself, not being your mask, not being your persona, not saying your own beliefs or preaching, which some people think, oh, I'm just being myself. No. That's usually your pathologos that you have been manipulated through to join a group. So like a lot of, we've talked a lot about this. The political situation is just the pathologos and logos writ large. But what we're doing here is trying to discover what ourselves are and how do we function through that and maintain it and recognize whenever we fall, because that's just a pathologos. So if the most fun games are the games in which you don't have to know the answer, you just have to be excited about playing and excited about not knowing. And if what makes games fun is freedom to be and to know and show yourself, then this is the best. Because it's literally that's the definition of the game, isn't it? To know and show yourself by removing the false beliefs about the self. So, here we are in the text. It is our desire for mature relationships with those we love that draws us to dialogue meaningfully with parents and authorities. In philosophical midwifery, we call this a return to one's roots. A return home once again, like the hero's journey. And you could map this onto the hero's journey. The hero's journey, of course, is the story, is like the archetype of heroes from narratives, from movies, from stories. But as we read in chapter 1, it's not the real model. It's close-ish, sort of. So what we are learning here is the real circle of the hero's journey and living it. Of course. To complete this cycle, to return home once again, is to bring to end the pathologos in that which is what we want. Hooray. In that victory, we become heroes. There we go. Because we know something about what it takes to become rational. We have closed the loop, completed what most needed completion. And closing the loop is an interesting idea. I've been thinking about this since we read it last time. I was playing music this weekend, and one of the ideas that I have been carrying with me as I go out to play lately has been questions, the significance of questions. When I play for people, some people come in with a sense of certainty, and you can see it on their face because it's a mask. Like you can see the tension. They're putting effort into a certain face, and it usually looks very patronizing. It's a superiority because that's the pathologos. The pathologos becomes our model for how to show ourselves in the world, especially if we want to be our best. It becomes a literal mask as well. And then if we don't do midwifery, we'll end up spending our lives identifying ourselves to it, which is a huge problem. You further zombified yourself. Anyway, these people who come in have a sense of certainty. They know what music is. They're the sorts of people who say, "Bet you can't play this," or "Why don't you play this?" or "Let me have a go." Idiots, morons. No, that's not fair. They're not morons. They are acting in a moronic way simply because they are identifying and functioning through a mask that is not them and is therefore designed to crush them. The reason why they feel they need the mask is because their sense of self, their trust in the self, their wonder about the self, their curiosity about the self, their quest to discover, to know and show the self has been crushed. That's what that mask does. So when you say, "Oh, this person's an idiot or a moron," what we're saying is that's how they're functioning. No self is an idiot or a moron. But we don't give people names based on their true intrinsic nature, because some people haven't done the work to bring it out and clean their pool, get the shit out of their pool, get the slime, the muck, the sludge out of their pool, their false beliefs themselves. So instead, while we're living as a human being at least, well, I guess, no, that's not fair. It would apply anywhere. The name we give things is based on how they're functioning. So like let's use an example. Trump and Elon Musk and all of his fascist cronies are doing Nazi stuff. And then you'll see someone like Joe Rogan who'll say, I know Elon Musk. He's not a Nazi. That Nazi salute he did at a presidential rally. 2 of them. Just to make sure. It wasn't a Hitler salute. Because at his essence, I know he's not a bad guy. That's the self. That's what we're here to discover, our essence, and to bring that forward. But if you're doing Nazi stuff, you are a Nazi. The names that we give things is not based on what we hope to be or what we could be or our inner essence. It's based on how we function. As we said earlier, if you're playing music, if you're a musician, play music. And it can be painful, or it takes courage, and so on and so on. If you are a human being, do the dialectic. Find good people, invite them for coffee. Reflect on these things as much as you can, because that's the activity, as we read in the Phaedo. The dialectic is the activity of a philosopher. If you're doing the dialectic, then you're in the game. You're a philosopher. If you ain't, find what other thing you are doing, give yourself a name based on that. I'm not doing dialectics or wondering or reading the Orange Sutra or the Balboa version of Socrates. Instead, I'm playing basketball every day. Okay, you're a hooper. Not a philosopher, you're a hooper. You could say, well, but actually, while I'm playing basketball, I'm seeking excellence. And I'm wondering about the nature of myself playing basketball. And I'm wondering about if there's an inherent paradigm to basketball. And whenever an insecurity comes up, I get the water boy to come out with a pen and with a page and a pencil so I can take notes on that block. In which case, you'd probably be doing both. Philosopher hooper. So the idea is we get names based on how we're functioning. So, I try my best to do these streams and put these podcasts out as much as I can, because that's what we do. Yes, and the more that we do share it, to go back to the chat message, the more people have an opportunity to hear that there is such a thing as the Logos. It isn't all just belief. It isn't all just appeasing parents and then going to school and then appeasing teachers by playing into their beliefs, then getting a job and appeasing the beliefs of your boss, and then, then someone like Trump becomes a politician and then you have to appease his racist, fascist stuff, otherwise you get deported or murdered. That's not the only game in town, appeasing the beliefs of tyrannical authorities. That's the only one on offer, but there is this one, the Logos. Right, so back to the story. I got a bit distracted. Some people, they're so identified with their mask, and as we're naming it, it functions to crush, because otherwise, why would they believe they need the mask unless their self-spirit has been crushed, or their trust in the self-logos has been crushed? And I notice these people are the worst. They're the worst for music. They're the worst for good vibes. They're the worst for them. They have the least fun. And so I've been thinking about that and how for those sorts of people, it seems to work better if I can make them curious about something, or not make them, but give them something to be curious about. Take them out of that mindset. And of course, all of the other elements, because I myself am modeling the self-reflection, I'm giving them permission to do it. The sort of, and the people interested who are around are doing the same thing. So there's a safe, encouraging, nurturing environment for this kind of self-reflection, for questions, for being curious, because the mark of the pathologos, the mark of the mask is certainty. I have all the answers. So think of that Steven Crowder meme. Again, a really ignorant, harmful, fascist, Nazi sympathizer and propagandist by the name of Steven Crowder. His meme is, "I'm certain about my racist shit. Prove me wrong." And he has that picture of him at a table at some college trying to argue with children or young adults at college. But it's not an argument. He has the mask. He's certain. He has all the answers. All his beliefs are right. He thinks his job is to muddy the waters so we don't actually connect with each other's, connect with the logos. We don't actually evolve. We don't actually solve problems. So the fascist bootlickers that he licks the boots of can continue to play out their pathologos at the destruction and the suffering of humanity and our species. That's what he does. He's not curious, certain. So, how do you enjoy the logos? How do you enjoy the dialectic? Because it's all about being curious. It's all about being open. And so I've been carrying that question, the question of how important is it to give certain people who approach me as a musician with this mask, how significant is it to give them a question or to bring forth a question they're curious about? Otherwise, it's strange. Not only are they a negative influence, and not only do they talk over the music or try and take charge and try and crush it and try and end songs, they themselves don't have fun. They can't find the wonder and the beauty in the music. And beyond the wonder and the beauty of the music, hopefully, meaning about self, about the moment, about excellence, about happiness, about the good, about our destiny, all these sort of things. Completely can't access it. So that's something I've been playing with, the significance of a question and that state of openness, which requires, for us, we have a bit of a benefit because we recognize what the opposite to openness and curiosity is, certainty. We recognize that it's the mask. We recognize that it's not ourself. We recognize that it's the cause of our problems. And we recognize that without philosophical midwifery in our back pocket, we will be a zombie, somnambulist, which means sleepwalker. We learned that last time. You should do a live show for your music where you ask a philosophical and do a live performance. Yes, that's my goal, I think. One of my musical goals, to do exactly what you described. Explore a philosophical question with music that reflects the dialectic that we are engaged in. Yep. In fact, I'm starting live music streams now. Some new equipment, so I'm in the setup process. But if you are interested in that kind of exploration of philosophy and dialogue together with live music, check out my live music stream on Twitch, Jed Phoenix Music. Anyway, so recently I've been carrying that question, but this idea of closing the loop came up this weekend. You were there last stream. I was going to do a second stream with my electric guitar equipment, but it took like 3 hours to set up, and then it was like too late, and I had to get out and play on on the outside world. Sorry about that. Thank you for sticking around though. I'll definitely be doing something tonight and tomorrow. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But yeah, it was like, I have to get out before a certain time before it gets too late. And yeah, it took me ages to set up. Hopefully it'll be cool once it's set up. Oh yeah, so music, often music has a loop, has a like a chord progression that loops, or has a chorus lyrically that repeats. Some choruses even, or sometimes there's a development of a theme through the song that repeats with the chorus, that loops around, is reset back to the beginning. We make the return home to the chorus. But hopefully because of the verses that we have sung through, we are returning home with something. So the hero's journey talks about coming home with a new skill. Every time I say the hero's journey, I'm not saying that's the actual archetype of the hero's journey. It's the popularized version from Joseph Campbell, who met Pierre Grimes and didn't take Pierre Grimes' challenge. Pierre Grimes, the author of the book that we're reading, didn't take his challenge to get into Socrates and Plato to actually learn the true paradigm. But that's what we are doing. We are and you could say, well, good for us that that Joseph Campbell didn't, because that gives us a puzzle to solve, gives us a mystery to be curious about ourselves. So that's cool. That's what we're doing. We are discovering and demonstrating the true hero's journey. So with that idea of giving questions, which is kind of like opening the loop, it's not the closed loop of certainty that is tied to our image of ourself. Our pathologos is our mask that we identify with. It's how we express ourselves. It's our way of being. It's very closed. Prove me wrong. I'm a Mormon, prove me wrong. I'm a Muslim, prove me wrong. I'm a Jew, prove me wrong. I'm a Protestant, prove me wrong. That's that way of being based on belief, not understanding. And as you can tell from that example, all of those groups that are united with an image, balloons, not true unity, an image of unity based on that way of being and belief, are all in conflict with each other. Therefore, wars and crusades and genocides and so on and so on. Human history soaked in blood. Now, the difference between, well, that's easy to see, of course, but understanding isn't exclusory. All of those people can understand their problem and their cultural problem, their belief problem, using the same model, so we can all learn together. Unity, true unity, not the image based on ignorance, beliefs of authorities, appeasing authorities, crushing your own self-goals and your self-development, crushing your own development into understanding, knowledge, wisdom, truth, all of those things. No, cut all that down and be bound together by ignorance. Understanding is open to everyone. Everyone is playing. Everyone is playing anyway. Whether you like it or not, you are playing the Logos game. You are playing a dialectical game. You're either a slave as a zombie to the pathologos idea of self, or you're free to gain self-mastery. So, opening the loop, opening that certainty is our invitation into the game, which came up this weekend. A couple of young lads, I think they've seen me play before. They rocked up and they had a whole bunch of speeches planned. Spiritual speeches, to their credit. Ideas about self and the soul and blocks and problems. So, to their credit, they were listening and found something that resonated from the last time that we played music together. But there were speeches, and that was terrible. It was terrible. They were so happy with their speeches too. They weren't talking, both of them had their own, and their speeches were different. They were talking across each other and at each other, and it was terrible. And when more people came who were on a completely different wavelengths to them, different nationality, different culture, different way of being, different level of intoxication, they couldn't assimilate. It's like, no, here's my speech. I think this is what it means to be a Noah. There's this spiritual guy I saw on YouTube, and this is how he talks, and I want to talk like that because I think this is what it means to be wise. And yeah, for those people, opening the loop, providing a question. Okay, those beliefs may or may not be true, but how far did you get? What's your highest insight? What's the thing that was most significant? Go all the way to the top. Because there, you can find a question. What's the next step? Or what's the cause of that insight? Or why did you need that insight? All of these questions are there ripe apples to be picked from the tree so long as you go all the way. Excellence. Min-maxing. Get rid of the min, just max-maxing. Doing your best. Phronesis in Greek. Always trying to do better. That's the game. I got it on the board even. This is a picture of us. See? Seeking excellence and truth. That's what it means to be in the game. Seeking excellence and truth. Looking for questions. Open, curious, puzzled, wondering, stung, state of mind. Aporia. Reading the logos. Apollo. Reflecting to piece it together. Aphrodite. Aphrodite and Apollo are the two gods that work together to help us reach. Have I got written down? Yeah, we'll put it up on the board. This is a fantastic thing to repeat because it's the principle of triads that run through all reality and through the logos. So as a triad... Oh no, my pen's doing that thing. Which means I gotta restart my computer. It's making dots. Okay. Alright, I'll use my mouse for now. Don't know why it does dots sometimes. I should check every time. Oh, what's going on? Let's fix. All right, real quick. Triad has a hypaxis. This is the top. This has the power to peek into the next level. Actually, it'd probably be more like this. And so on. So we have Apollo and Aphrodite. This is reading the text. This is reflecting on it to recognize that the pieces that we're pulling out actually fit together into beautiful wholes, and the activity of that, as well as the insight of seeing how it comes together, is inspiring, is motivating, actually impacts us. That's Aphrodite. That's the inherent beauty and wholeness of reality. Apollo is finding the pieces through reading the text that we read. Put them together, and they come to Hermes. Hermes represents the dialectic, because Hermes is the god that has the wings on his shoes that race us to be with the gods. And the gods, of course, represent being, our own aspects of our own mind, and of course the self, because there has to be something even experiencing that. So that's, by the way, Apollo, Aphrodite, and Hermes, that's a triad. 3. Part of being in the game is looking for patterns of 3s and putting them in your skill tree. So now we've got another thing over here, another triad or group of 3 that fit together within the logos. So those are our skill trees. This is our inventory. We've got questions and hypotheses in our inventory. This is our aura, you could say, our buff. Can't play unless you're curious and open and reflecting. Aporia, you're okay with not knowing. Again, the Meno that we're reading on this channel every second day talks about, is somebody in that certain state? Socrates is trying to open his loop. I know you're very certain. And I know you're very angry and you will attack people who challenge your beliefs, Meno. And I know you've paid a lot of money for education. I know you come from a rich, well-connected family. But you're wrong, son. But that's good. Let's bring out your slave. Problematic, he has slaves. Anyway, he doesn't know this math. In fact, he thinks he knows this math problem. If he went out and talked about it, he'd be harming people and embarrassing himself because he's wrong. But if I ask him questions so he realizes that he is wrong, it's actually good for him. Around good people like us, being mistaken is actually fantastic. Again, there are terrible people who are functioning in terrible ways that use mistakes as an excuse to crush them, which is evil. Not really evil, because evil doesn't exist. It's not a supernatural force, but it's the worst thing you can do. It's the pathologos, crushing a person. Online, they call it clip chimping. So right now, there's a content creator at the time of recording. I can't remember his name. Little Jewish guy. Sick all the time, on Ozempic. Very, his mask manifests very obviously in tics and things. Again, which is a problem when you're in it, but if you realize that these are clues, it can be opportunities to reflect. Should you become curious? He's not curious. I can't remember his name. He used to be friends with another content creator on Twitch named Hassan. And I think he loved Hassan. And I think they broke up when what's his name? Goodness. Ethan. Ethan is very, very attached to his pathologos, which includes justifying a genocide because he's that kind of Jewish. Justifying a genocide against Palestinians, and again, not interested in truth, not interested in excellence, so he's not in the game. And better people like Hassan, I'm not friends with you, buddy. If you are completely closed-minded and unwilling to learn, and you are trying to justify genocide, it doesn't really get worse than that. Am I a Hassan fan? I don't watch his content. Occasionally I will see it. There's another streamer I watch who plays some Hassan content on the opening screen, so I do get some of it that way. He seems onto it. He seems good heart, good head, doing the good work as well. I'd say he's a miss. What does he miss on? All the clips I've seen, all the videos I have seen, he's bang on. I haven't seen any bad takes from him. Well, I don't know him very well. And the people who I do know are wonderful people, seem to like the guy. Oh, but the problem with that is, if you do speak the truth, you will get those sorts of people that we call clip chimps. People are motivated by the pathologos who are not interested in dialogue, to seek truth, to seek excellence, to be better. Those people who are not as reflective and have the courage to reflect are instead addicted to their pathologos. What's a challenge to the pathologos? Truth, excellence, everything good. Apollo, no understanding, no reflection to see how it comes together. Definitely no dialogue and dialectic. So these sorts of people have to villainize the thing that is objectively the best. You can't do that with truth. You can't say, well, the truth is that people who seek truth are bad. Well, that doesn't make sense because you're appealing to truth to reject truth. Like fascists will say, you need to be tolerant of my intolerance. You can't appeal to a principle to justify you acting, functioning against that principle. That's stupid. But it's also very telling. The fact that even people wanting to crush truth, even the people wanting to crush understanding and care, still realize within their soul that they need to pretend to be speaking the truth. They can't just say, well, I don't like people who do good things because I'm a bad person. They don't say that. That's what they are saying, but they don't say it literally. They'll say, I am being more caring by crushing you. I am being more truthful I am being more tolerant by being intolerant. It's a lie, and they know they're lying. They don't know why they're lying. That's why we do this, to figure out why we have the problems we have. And they haven't done the work to reflect on and remove their false beliefs, but they know they're lying. Interesting that our soul seeks truth, even for those stuck in their pathologos. So what they'll do instead is clip chimp. People addicted to their pathologos, we read this a few episodes ago, will try and take isolated clips, take it out of context, take it out of the sentence that it was in, to lie about what the person is saying. Again, this isn't about truth. It's attacking the mask. Because this person, if this person said this bad thing, and that because of my clip chimping, looking for taking things out of context, isolated clips, they are a bad person. So now you don't have to listen to the truth that they're talking about. You don't have to seek excellence along with them. You don't have to solve problems as these good people are doing. Because he's a bad dude. Baby brain. We talked about this as well. That's blame, by the way. This was the last part. Blame. Blame is baby brain because it assigns one cause. Ignore the argument. That's too many words. I can't think. I'm an idiot. But I can think bad person, bad idea. The devil is always bad. Jesus is always good. That kind of stupidity. That's blame, by the way. It assigns a single cause when there are many, especially the logos and pathologos. You can't reject those causes. And that cause is the person Not the idea, not the reasoning, it's the person. And that person is a villain. It vilifies. I'm anti-Hassan. I'm pro-Ethan. I'm anti-Trump. Who gives a shit? It's not about the person, it's about the ideas. How are they functioning? What's the beliefs behind what they're functioning? Is it true? If not, how can we ask a question to open the loop if they're stuck on a mistake? And that's what the Mino was saying. It's okay to make mistakes. If someone makes a mistake, you don't say, oh, everything they say is wrong, I'm not a fan. If they are a good person, they want to see where they're missing the mark. So if we see a mistake, how do we open the loop, make them curious, express what we are seeing through questions that invite them to become curious so that they can see the mistake they're making? And that's what Socrates demonstrated in the Meno. Hey, this guy's going to give all these speeches about math, but he's wrong. When I showed him that he was wrong, it was the Pythagorean thing. Is it bad? Only the worst kind of people think a mistake is an opportunity to shit on them, to crush them, to abuse them. Only the pathologos does that. The logos is the opposite. Every mistake is a gift, an opportunity to discover something that you are not yet seeing, but also it's often, especially if it's something very important, if you're not just gossiping, but you're doing philosophy, where you miss the mark and how you miss the mark are clues to understanding and uncovering your pathologos, which is the game. How do we uncover something we don't know we're carrying? This. The clues about how and where and when our block came up. So, that's the significance of being okay with being mistaken. So long as you don't end it, well, I'm mistaken, so I'm going to be more of a fascist to stay true to my beliefs because I want to be a Nazi because my family's a Nazi or whatever. Or I want to be a Protestant because my family's whatever. Pick one. No, when you realize you made a mistake, can you be open and curious? Opening the loop. The mask is not curiosity, it's certainty. And then we can wonder what happens when we drop our masks. What happens when we're being honest? Because, hey, honesty isn't an opportunity to clip chimp like Ethan does. So Ethan is lying. He's lying about the better content producers on the internet who are sharing the logos, talking about principles, talking about causes, inviting dialogue, trying their best to help, trying best to open the conversation, trying best to encourage other people to not give up, trying their best to help other people to seek truth and excellence, engaged in self-reflection or ousia, looking for causes and principles. These are the best people we have. These are the people Ethan and anyone, we mentioned Steven Crowder, we mentioned Trump, we mentioned Elon, all of these people, because these are the good things that are of the logos, because it's the logos, it threatens the pathologos. These are the people that they attack. The worst people, when I say worst people, that's how they function. And again, this isn't just blame. We recognize when we say that we're pointing to the cause of their pathologos. Their pathologos and their lack of integrity to reflect on their pathologos is why they are the worst people. They attack the best people. That's what we see Ethan Klein doing right now. And they have to lie. They won't show full videos. They will take clips, misrepresent their arguments to create a prejudice of that person being a bad side. And by the way, if I say, oh, I'm anti, let's say Hassan, I've got a group of other anti-Hassan. We can be bound together in our hatred and our sense of superiority because we caught him making a mistake. Now I'm superior. Now I get to crush him. All of this fantastic work he's doing, I can dismiss, and I don't have to be better because I found him making a mistake. And a mistake is an opportunity to shit on someone, says the pathologos, not the logos. That's what we're doing differently here. And this is what these good people do. You'll see of those better people who are being attacked in a dishonest, sinister way. These people being attacked are still, well, maybe they've given up on it now, but for a very long time, still kept trying to reach out to this person with dialogue, with truth, with excellence, with self-reflection. That's the difference. It's not about picking teams. It's not about vilifying people. It's about understanding the functioning of the logos and the pathologos and doing our best to encourage one and doing our best to reflect on another. And you can't do any of that unless you open the loop. Replace the certainty of the pathologos with wonder and curiosity. And again, anyone who comes in and says, you made a mistake, ha ha, now let's all beat the shit out of you, or let's all pile on you, or let's cancel you, any of that bullshit is not allowed here. Well, not allowed here. It isn't that it's not allowed in this community. It's understood. You don't want to do it because you recognize you're just further solidifying your own ignorance and your own suffering. You're doing unto others the thing that your mask and your pathologos is doing to you every day, and that's the cause of your suffering. You are a zombie cog in a machine of ignorance. If you think mistakes are opportunities to crush people, especially if you are taking the clips or the phrases out of context or misrepresenting them, or you're lying. You are the worst kind of person and you are suffering in the worst way. Wake up and reflect on it. No, I can't reflect on it. Why not? Because if I reflect on it, that means I have to admit that I was wrong. Good. Aren't you benefited if you realize that? And so you can learn the truth and then help people with the truth. By the way, you've also learnt what it takes, learnt what it costs you to be stuck in a lie, and you've learnt what it takes through your life experience to get out of it. So you can help others even better. Good for you for being wrong. Good for you for realizing it. What will they say? No, I can't be wrong because that's when I get smacked. That's where I get fired. That's where I get put in detention. That's when I get deported. That's when I get genocided. The worst thing is being wrong. In fact, one of the reasons why he's losing all his friends and he's such a terrible person, functioning as a terrible person, is he is saying we need to murder Palestinian people. Or, okay, he didn't literally say that. He is in support of a genocide that literally murders other people because they were wrong. Not anything they did. They're babies and children. They're evil babies. They are innately wrong. They've made a mistake in where they were born as babies. So if that person who is functioning in that way, looking for arguments that make whole cultures wrong so you can inflict your pathologos, sinister evil on them, punishing them for being wrong, to say to that person it's okay to be wrong is very difficult because their whole group is bound together by a shared belief that includes finding people different from my in-group and then murdering them because they are inherently wrong. They've made a mistake. So, none of that. If you understand that's the whole game, then it's very hard to buy into the bullshit. So you won't want to find someone making a mistake so that you can crush them. Encourage reflection to find the mistakes so that we can encourage dialectic, reasoned reflection. Let's put dialectic on the board. We can't because we don't have a pen. So those people, those are the two elements. Number one, understanding that we all will make mistakes because those mistakes are not mistakes. They are clues to discover the unsuspected pathologos we are a zombie to, a slave to. That's the human game. That's what we're here to do, to find out the ignorance that we are carrying with our souls that we came into the world with so that we can remove it through time. We have, in this dimension, we have time and space, so we can reflect in time. We can have lots of coffee talks. We can have lots of podcasts. We can have lots of questions in the chat. Because we're not perfect already. Because we are perfect in that we are a perfect representation of all of the forces upon our soul up until now. That's perfection. Not a flawless ideal. That's stupid and mean and can justify cruelty. You're not a perfect Aryan? Gas chamber for you. That's not what it means to be human. So what's the game we are in? Making that clear that we are looking for problems. And by the way, the more we seek excellence, the more problems we'll uncover as we go higher and higher. So we better start loving having problems so that we can unpack the meaning through the dialectic to remove the problem and discover the truth. Hey, those people crushing others, they don't know the self. They don't know enlightenment. They don't know the meaning of life. They don't know their destiny. They don't know their mind. They're missing out on all of the best aspects of reality, of being a human being. For blind loyalty to their ignorance and to their mask of certainty. It's the ticket to the party, the best party, where there is happiness and cheering. And I've lost. There we go. Cheering and dancing. They don't get to go. Why? Because they think mistakes are the worst things. Why? Because their authority figures and parental figures say that's an excuse that I can crush people because I'm addicted to the sadism of my pathologos, because I falsely believe that this image of knowingness is actual knowingness. I'm going to the shit party down the street where there's no one there and I'm eating dirt because I believe that's the true party. It's not where the fun is. So helping people realize that, and that's the Meno that we're reading, that mistakes are important. Midwifery, what we're reading now, learning this art, is how to do that, take those mistakes and transform them into insights and freedom. And you can't do that unless you're open. So making clear that mistakes are good and opening the loop. Now that you are safe, you're not going to be this isn't a tyranny group. This isn't a fascist group. This isn't a sexist group. This isn't a Nazi group. It's the opposite. We are embracing mistakes as objects of reflection and wonder that we will, because we know we can overcome them and become better. And we know that that's what we don't know. We are carrying the hypothesis that that's exactly what we're here for. Opening the loop. So that's the question. But now what we're reading is, after the loop has been opened and you have gone through this process of developing this art, which is our purpose and destiny, you might want to close the loop. And that's what I was thinking about this weekend, closing the loop. Let's bring up the image so we can see it. Ads. Here we go. Here we go. There we go. Here's the hero's journey. So this is again, not the true archetype, but close-ish, the popular media one. So Act 1 is the separation, leaving home, leaving the ordinary world, call to adventure. So for those of you who are just learning about the logos and pathologos now, consider this your call to adventure. Crossing the threshold, like actually jumping in, starting the dialectic, actually reading the way that we've been learning how to read, which is looking for the clues, pulling them out, putting them into little dialectics, and sharing it with your friends. But at the end we have. Oops. No, this is a bad one. Okay, let me find a better one. This looks fun. Try the fun one. Here we go, here's a fun one. Here we go. Bear with me. Return, see the top corner here, number 12, returning with the elixir. You're returning home having learnt something that can benefit even the people back home. Here we go. Ordinary world, call to adventure, refusing the call. I don't want to do the logos midwifery. I like carrying water for my family beliefs. I like getting a pat in the head when I'm racist like my old man. And meeting the mentor. Consider Pierre Grimes your mentor. He's our mentor in this book. Crossing the threshold, actually doing it, actually jumping in, seeking excellence, blah, 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 lots of things. And then there's a return at number 12 with the elixir. So what? This is completing the loop. After you've opened it, you've sacrificed your certainty and your tyrannical actions and your chimp ink, your dishonesty, and you've replaced it with playing the game of trying to learn virtue, courage, integrity, truth, seeking truth ultimately. You've actually crossed the threshold and started to do that. You've opened the loop. You've embraced not knowingness. You've embraced making mistakes, and you've embraced questions and the dialectic. That's the way of what we're doing. It's literally what we're doing here. As a result of that way of being, you can come home with not a lightsaber returning with the elixir, or Harry Potter coming home with his magic abilities, or Katniss coming home from the Hunger Games with, I haven't watched it, food. I guess she comes home with food to feed the hungry people. You're returning with the art of all arts, the art of the dialectic, the art of the logos, which is literally something that you could, as a hypothesis, take with you beyond this life. If it's an art of the logos and the logos isn't physical, it reflects physically, it's represented physically, it helps us to understand physical problems in our physical world, but it's non-physical in nature. It's an idea about the self. And it's an imitation of truth, which is not an idea, but it's real being, which is non-physical. The part of our soul that's immortal, as what we are learning with Meno. Socrates saying, hey, yeah, all learning is remembering. These things that I've taught you a slave boy about, he didn't know them. He didn't learn them in the physical world, but now he knows them. All I did was ask him questions. Where did he see this? It must have been in a non-physical level of reality. We call it being, pure mind. And therefore reality is just learning what our soul once knew in being and has forgotten. Which we talked about also has its representation in the pathologos with our amnesia. We forget. We are going through an unforgetting process. And said, oh, by the way, Meno, says Socrates, that means your soul must be immortal. Is that interesting? If our soul was, here we go, amnesia, number 3. If our soul was immortal, wouldn't our time here be best spent learning an art or skill or elixir that we can use in our journey beyond this life? if that's logically sound and a beautiful argument as well, and you can verify it for yourself, if you do it, the dialectic is itself a stepping stone to remembering, to experiencing the realm of being, then probably the thing to do here, your destiny, would be to learn the thing that can survive your physical end. So we could call this the archetypal elixir, going back to here. Whoops. Number 12, returning with the elixir, the art of the logos and the pathologos, midwifery. That's the elixir we return home with. That we would only get if we had left that blue section, got out of our mask. And that's the role of wonder and curiosity, questions, and that's the significance that everyone here in chat, everyone in the community, that's the significance of you speaking up about what you're seeing. You could be the person giving the call to adventure. You could be, for someone, especially if you've got that elixir, if you have mastered the logos, you could be the mentor that somebody meets and help somebody else cross the threshold. And now we're talking about returning with the elixir or closing the loop. And that was my story. So on the weekend, running into these lads who gave me an opportunity to wonder about and test to cross the threshold. This question about how important it is to first bring people out of their certainty with questions. So with these lads, yeah, okay, these are nice beliefs, and I can see you've been, listening to this or reading this guy, but what's your question? And that's a big shock. They didn't understand that. What I thought being wise was, hey, I love Alan. One of them loved Alan Watts. He gives these lectures and these speeches, and he sounds so smart and wise, and everyone thinks he's so smart and wise. But what if he's not? What if he's riffing? What if that's not wisdom? What if being certain isn't wisdom? What if being curious is? And what if it's not helpful? So when one of them did come up with a question, I tried my best to say, hey, by the way, can we all have it? Can we share it together? Can we all collectively? So you're not just lecturing at us, and we're not fucking listening anyway, because who gives a shit about your dumb opinions? If you think about the world, the only people who we care about their dumb opinions are people who we are forced to because we're a baby, or because we have to go to work and we have to appease the stupid tyrannical boss's opinions. Capitalism is tyranny. You never get to vote to be CEO, do you? You never own the business as an employee, do you? It's a tyranny. But a question we can wonder about together. We can ask questions. We can share theories. We can share experiences. We can come to an understanding different from belief. So that was the idea. And of course needed. They didn't made medium progress. It was all right. But then the next group of people came with an open loop, and part of the new idea that I was exploring on the weekend, that came up, was closing the loop, returning home. Hopefully the song that we sing together, or we play together, or we have fun with together, has meaning related to the question, so that by the end of it, hopefully we can close the loop. We can bring back to our question a new understanding that we got as a result of going on the journey, as a result of having a question and reflecting on it together. Not opinions, not beliefs, not groups, not exclusion, not clip chimping. By the way, we read last time that clip chimping, looking for people making mistakes or fabricating mistakes as an opportunity to justify you crushing them, that's called intimidation. That's one of the aspects of blame that we read. 5. Blame and anger. We're not trying to intimidate. Here we go. When we repeatedly use errors and mistakes as supporting evidence in condemning, that's called intimidation. Let's read it from the start. 5th, so if we get this from our parents, can parents be blamed for the pathologos? Are they responsible for all the duplicity that they went through in order for us to be given the conditions that we walk away with that false, unsuspected belief about ourselves that will cause all the misery in our lives? If they did it to us, should they be blamed? Before we explore this issue in terms of midwifery, let us review a few things. What is blaming? Whenever we confront others to condemn them, your essence is bad. For any reason, we are trying to convince them that they are primarily responsible for some bad state of affairs. We are ignoring all the other causes. Calling one evil, bad, or having a flawed nature is another way to blame others. So either they are a single cause. If only the Palestinians didn't exist, we'd be living in a utopia. Let's just genocide them. Or calling them bad. Oh, they're bad, they're evil. They're just savages. They worship the devil, you know. And it's their flawed nature. Women are just flawed nature. Do you know that women caused sin and that's why we have suffering? Because women are naturally bad and that's why I am voting for Trump? Or that's why I'm a Nazi? Calling one bad or evil or having a flawed nature is another aspect of blame. It's stupid. Your nature is fine. You just need to do your job, which is see how your nature involves a swimming pool. That swimming pool can be filled up with truth, understanding, the art of the dialectic, and can lead you all the way to your highest, most significant goals and destiny. But because you have a pool, you could also have a pool filled with sludge. That's the human condition. Our soul seeks truth and knowingness and wisdom, but instead of philosophy, true philosophy, which is what we do here, mastering the logos, it gets filled with slime. It's good that we have a place in our soul for a pool, but it gets filled with slime. False images of knowingness, of beauty, of goodness, of love. Which is another reason why midwifery is needed for a healthy relationship. Otherwise, you'll just try and force the slime on your partner. I believe this is what it means to be loving. Really? From what? Oh, it's the slime of my pathologos that I haven't cleared up yet because I haven't done midwifery. What about we clear up that slime and together in a relationship as friends or lovers, go on the hunt for the cleanest, crystal clear spring water and fill our pool with that. In other words, the dialectic. To reach understanding and truth. And discover the true model that our soul knows but has forgotten about what it means to be loving and good and kind. Okay? When blaming is successful, the blamed experiences a sense of their own worthlessness. Why would you want that? Why would you want a person at a pool party who feels worthless? That's stupid. Oppressive. Harmful. And when we repeatedly use errors and mistakes as supporting evidence in condemning, that's called intimidation. Insecure people in positions of power often defend their right to intimidate their subordinates because, as they claim, you got to motivate them. Hey, if I don't threaten to take away your healthcare, how will you be motivated to live anything? You're a stupid, mindless blob. I am the great Elon Musk. I must motivate people with my exploitations. Because as they claim, they need to motivate them to perform their assigned tasks. Different from what we're doing. Wonder is the motivation. Excellence is the motivation. Truth is the motivation. Enlightenment, being able to experience the highest reaches of your own consciousness, is the motivation. Intrinsic motivation, not manipulation. However, when adults experience intimidation, they don't gain a pathologos because they've got sufficient evidence to recognize these strategies for what they are. So when the boss comes in and starts like critiquing everything, I saw you leaning. If you got time to lean, you got time to clean. You're a bad worker. I'm punishing you to motivate you to work harder. I'm taking away some of your pay. Bullshit. We know that guy's just a dick. Okay. I got to stop saying words that are actually serve important functions, like dicks and assholes. They're not, we know they're being a jerk, a petty tyrant. We know that. When we're a kid, we don't. That's the issue. And when we ourselves clip chimp, pull isolated bits of audio or something, or don't represent the whole truth of what the person's saying, or distract from the arguments by trying to attack the character of the person, claiming they're bad or evil, this is intimidation. And stupid. And again, an expression of the pathologos, expression of our worst natures. And also can create the pathologos in others. So not only do you have a pool full of slime, the slime is going out into other people's pools. So clean up your pool is what we're doing here. Alright, so we're not intimidating people for having made a mistake, so we're allowed to be curious. And if we're curious and asking questions, we can share questions. You can't share opinions and beliefs. Even if you're a Christian, go to the church up the street. See if anyone has the same idea of Christianity. See if anyone else has the same idea of what Christianity is as you. You won't find one. It's an image of unity. It's just projection of everyone's ignorance. No one reads the texts. No one reads the ancient Greek. I mean, it's fun to, and it's worth doing, especially if your pathologos has a religious influence, which it's likely to have. So if you grew up Muslim, you say, well, I'm not a Muslim. Yes, but when you were young, that was the society you grew up in. It might be worth understanding, reading the actual text for yourself and understanding it. Not to believe it, but to recognize certain patterns within the ignorance that you grew up in. So, we're not intimidating or clip chimping, so we're allowed to ask questions. That opens the loop. When our loop is open, we can go on this journey to master the logos, and when we've mastered the logos, we can return home. Whoops. Returning with the elixir, the end of the hero's journey. And that's where we are now. Returning home with the elixir. But our elixir isn't a magic wand like Harry Potter, it's the art of the logos. The ability to reflect, to talk, to invite, to encourage questions, to get out of our problems, the pathologos, and discover the truth of the self, to know and show the self. So that's what we're reading. What would happen if we do come home? Behind on the chat. Thank you for being patient with me in the chat. I don't think he has a great take on stuff. His heart is in an okay place. Oh, okay. Seems pretty alright to me. I'm not trying to shit on him. By the way, you should watch this. It's a funny video. Okay, yeah, thanks for the link. I'll check it out. Can you share it on the Discord? If you're on the Discord? I think there's a section on the Discord for like clips or other material or something like that. I'm sure there's a section there. If it isn't, or if you think, oh, by the way, if you have any feedback or ideas about how to make the Discord better, just let me know and I'll do it. Someone who has experience of something is wrong. Overcome that wrong to know more. Let me read it properly. Someone who has experience of why something is or was wrong and how to overcome that wrong know more than someone who got the right answer and who doesn't know right. That's brilliantly said. Well said. Because that works on 2 levels. The significance of asking a question and not just giving an opinion or an answer is they can go through that wonder and the puzzlement and see what it takes to be puzzled and see how it can be hard to be puzzled and see how it can be scary because we're expecting our parental figures projected onto other authority figures or just society figures who themselves haven't done their pathologos. We're often expecting them to be crushed whenever we show any curiosity. In Australia, it's a big issue. Remember, we're coming into music stores and saying, oh, really? Before I'd learned about the circle of fifths, I'm still learning about the circle of fifths, the logos of music. I remember going to a music store and someone saying something about the circle of fifths, and I was curious about it. Oh, really? And my curiosity and wonder was an excuse for everyone in that music shop to just shit on me. Oh, yeah, you didn't know this? You're stupid. It's an Australian thing. Oh, some cultures it's stronger, but it's terrible. A couple of weeks later, I went back into the shop and one of them came up to me and said, you know why? I don't know why I was shitting on you the other day for having that question. I don't know why I did that, and I'm sorry. Sometimes people have those moments, which was nice. So you have gone through those experiences of dealing with those haters or pathologos bootlickers, people who are simping for the pathologos by shutting down curiosity, wonder, meaningful discussion, or learning of the logos, or truth. There is no truth. Pathologo simps. You've experienced that by having it as a question and going through the process and discovering it for yourself. That's the significance of the questions. You know what it's like to be wrong and unaware that you're wrong. You know what it's like to be wrong and aware of it. You know what it's like to cross the threshold and be, okay, I'm wrong and I'm aware of it. I'm going to admit it. I'm not going to lie to myself just because everyone in my family is, or everyone in my church group is, or everyone in my workplace is, or everyone in my business is. I'm actually going to have philosophical ignorance, which is knowing you don't know, but curious and seeking it. You know what it's like to have a question, to share it. So that once you get the answer, you can be a better guide for other people. Going back to the hero's journey. So maybe that second loop that you take would involve you being, being a mentor now. You go through the loop a second time as a dialectician. So yeah, well said, yeah. So you're knowing why it was wrong and what it takes to overcome and get the right answer. Applies to our human purpose, activity of learning this, but also questions themselves is that principle in essence. It's like an alcoholic learning from their own experience on how to overcome it and someone who's never experienced it, sure. Someone who for example, someone who was a Nazi and overcome that depth of negativity can help teach others to not be that way because they know both sides and have a level of understanding for themselves to overcome that depth. Well said. Now, what's wonderful about midwifery is we go through a process where we uncover our specific ignorance about ourselves, our specific problems. But in order to do that, we have to learn the model. We have to learn the principle of dialectic. Yes, there's a model there. We can populate it with our own specifics. But the thing about the model is you can meet a new person and everyone's pathologos is unique, like a snowflake that someone peed on because it's bad. Bad snow. Pathologos is bad snow. But the content doesn't really matter as much if you have the model because, well, having the model allows you to extend that to anyone's individual pathologos. To the point where I've seen midwifery talks where, because of the person or because of the situation, they never gave any specifics. The midwife was just asking questions about the model and they could populate the specifics themselves. So that's the significance. we're not just solving a problem, we're solving problems themselves. So hopefully when we learn this, we'll go out to the world and say, hey, by the way, I see you have a problem with X. Have you wondered about the intelligibility? Have you wondered about midwifery? Have you wondered about this? Some sort of question that can help them open their loop of certainty and become curious about the logos and pathologos. To everyone. So it can be Nazi stuff, it can be political stuff, it can be business stuff, it can be justice stuff, it can be education stuff, it can be interpersonal stuff, it can be relationship stuff. Maybe even spiritual. Maybe you go down to the ashram or some meditation center, and then there's some actual Buddhist or Taoist or anything who has a different state of mind, has had some sort of experience or development into mind. You think they would have problems too? Of course they do. Do you think that the model of midwifery would apply to even spiritual or guru-related problems? Of course. Do you think their status as an authority figure and their image of being an enlightened Buddhist guru or an enlightened Taoist teacher or a Dharma successor to whoever, do you think that's going to make it harder for them to be curious? You bet your ass. Do you think they're going to be angry even though everything else they do is peaceful and serene? And I know I'm enlightened because I move like the wind and I'm never angry. See how angry they get when you suggest this. But of course they're going to get angry. It's their thing. It's their mask. It's their. They think it's the self. That's the issue. If they do get curious, could you help them? Absolutely. And is all of that a training for wherever we're going next? The ability to understand deviations from the logos and dialectic and to share the logos and dialectic in a way that A, benefits by bringing people from sickness to health, and B, takes that healthy person on an adventure with you on a journey to higher levels of truth, excellence, knowingness, and self. Could that be what people are doing once they've graduated from the physical world? Maybe. Socrates talks about that in the Phaedo. So closing the loop, coming back. So whether it's that second group of people I was talking about with the music, not the closed-minded lads, they needed to get a question and open the loop. These people who were already in wonder about music or really like the music or really curious, they were already open. They were looking for a journey through meaning and words and music so that they can close the loop. And as we were saying before, most songs have a chord loop, 4 or 5 chords maybe, sometimes less, sometimes more. That loop to keep the song moving. And then a superstructure, verse, chorus, that loops. But at the end, it needs to be closed. There has to be a final chord or note where the loop is closed, but it's closed in the way that having gone through that journey, they see the topic or the question in a new way. They return back to the same home, but they see it completely differently. Returning with the elixir, closing the loop. So, our desire for mature relationships with those we love, that draws us to dialogue meaningfully with parents and authorities. In philosophical midwifery, we call it a return to one's roots, a return home once again. For to complete this cycle is to bring to end the pathologos. Hooray!
Wow.
Freedom. In that victory, we become heroes. Because we know something about what it takes to become rational, as you were saying in chat. We have closed the loop, completed what most needed completion. Okay, there is a beauty and a sense of intrinsic correctness to the decision to re-examine these early pathologo scenes, the origin scenes, the causal scenes, and to discuss them with those who played out their convincing roles within those scenes. Hey, you know when I was in self and wondering and I had this good question and you came along and yelled at me and then threw me a bag of garbage and said, take out the garbage. Do something meaningful with your life, you useless waste of space. I don't know, whatever it was. You seemed very convincing, like you actually knew the truth. I was actually in a contemplative state. I was actually in a good state. I was actually seeking my own self-goals, not your own being a slave to your bullshit, taking out the garbage or whatever. Do you know that you were convincing? You appeared knowing, you appeared caring, you appeared beautiful. I've never really seen you express yourself so confidently. As a child who didn't know any better, I thought that was truth. But you know what you're really doing? Here is a name that accurately describes what you're doing because you weren't being a parent when you do that shit. No animal does that to their kids. You're actually being the name based on their functioning. So, in the discussions with them, we can discover how these early scenes in our life led to false beliefs about ourselves. So even when we start talking about the truth, even though it's with another person, we are uncovering new things ourselves. There is a significance to sharing in this way, that you discover new things. Things will come up, they'll say something, or they'll give you a key word that like, oh, I never thought about it with that word. So, in discussions with them, we can discover how these early scenes in our life led to false beliefs about ourselves. All right. Through sharing with them, they can realize the depth and shaping power of the pathologo scenes as well. For there is no reason why the process cannot be reversed. Problems are solvable. Problems are solvable. Since passing into the pathologos, remember, we come from somewhere before we're born. And before we get our pathologos in childhood, we weren't born into the pathologos. There was a kind of forgetting, which becoming born, which requires us to learn the dialectic by reading the Balboa version of Socrates, which is what we do, so we can learn the truth about self and reality that our soul knows because it's immortal and was there before and will be there after, hopefully. But the second kind of, both are, by the way, these two kinds of forgetfulness are talked about in Plato's Republic. The second is this, a passing into a zombie or somnambulist or sleepwalking. We're sleepwalkers. With the pathologos, we're sleepwalkers. I like zombie a little bit better because we're a slave to the zombie virus. In other words, the zombie virus makes people brainless, unable to think for themselves, but they still have a kind of goal. They want to eat brains, just like the pathologos guides the lives of all human beings who haven't, done the work to reflect on themselves in this way. But still motivates them. You are still looking for, whether you like it or not, opportunities to play out your pathologos with impunity, or not eat the brains, but eat the soul of other people. The same way your brain was eaten or your soul was crushed. But we can move out of it. There is a zombie cure. The zombie cure is waking up, is to move from the zombie state of the pathologos to the awakened logos. So we're moving from the sloppy pool full of slime to a beautiful clean pool within our soul. That's the awakened logos. We're discovering our true language. It's the self logos. Okay, let's chat back in with chat. Uh-oh. Am I still streaming? Because I see the The beach ball of death. Uh-oh. I'm still streaming? Everything's paused on OBS. And I see the little swirly thing. Wonder how I can make that go away. Uh-oh. I might have to restart OBS. Oh, thanks. Uh-oh. Okay, my OBS has crashed. Ah. Okay, so, my OBS has crashed. I can't do anything. I can't scroll through the chat. It's 50-50, it might fix itself. Okay, I was going to keep reading today, but as it turns out, often we read and then the next episode is a reflection again on our reading, which is the game. It's 50-50 having experiences and reflecting on them. Usia, again, is the reflection that helps us learn. So, yeah, so maybe we'll call that a day because it's almost 2 hours. I'm going to have to figure out how to maybe get the stream from Twitch to upload to YouTube. But thanks for the questions. Good reflection on the text. We can still move the text around. And tomorrow will be in the Mino, and then after that, oh yeah, sure. I'll wait. I can see before you go. Is it a wordy book? Which one? This one that we're reading? It does have words. It's pretty badass. We're at the beginning. We're getting the openings, like the specifics in the whole. But like, look at this stuff that's to come. The understanding of the pathologos fits in with all other models because it's the archetypal model. So that includes like field. This is like gravitational field theory. You can represent the pathologos in midwifery in that. I just like books that have a lot of words and require a dictionary. I don't think it requires a dictionary. It's pretty straightforward, but as profound as all shit. So, it's amazing. It's amazing. You go to any page and it's just like wisdom bombs dropping on your ass. You don't really need a dictionary. I think there's a glossary. No, there's an index. The second half are all the validation studies. So this new paradigm of understanding human problems also happens to be the only form of psychotherapy that has been validated empirically. So yes, it does go beyond the physical world necessarily because the physical world has the problems caused by our psyche and our relationship with the realm of being, but it doesn't mean it doesn't affect the physical world. So that's the second half. That can be a bit boring unless you're into graphs and things. But it's still important to know that that it is the only form of psychotherapy that's been empirically verified. But of course it is, because it's the truth. It's the thing that's going to work. We've done lots of studies, and it seems that 2 and 2 equals 4. We could say, well, why did you have to do studies on 2 and 2 equals 4? If you know what 2 is, you know 2 and 2 is 4. Same kind of thing for part 2. But part 2 is smaller. It's a good book. Might buy it while I'm here. Going to be in hospital for a while. Oh. So last time you'll see me for... You can't stream in hospital, or you can't put Twitch on your phone? But yeah. Worth reading. Good use of time. By the way, you might also want to read another book if you've got an interest. Streaming does use a lot of data. No computers. Is there a Wi-Fi at the hospital? Or maybe get one, can you get a hub that has like lots of data? Like sometimes phone plans get like a burner phone, just use it as a hotspot. Just so you can talk to me. Expensive. That sucks. Well, I hope it goes well. I hope you recover quickly. I bought a Switch Lite in 4 games. Oh, that sounds like fun. So that'll be fun actually. Play a bit of Switch, read a few pages of this, wonder about it while you're exploring Hyrule. But then get the other book, which I was going to mention. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic introduction to philosophy. If you have a friend who you think might get into philosophy, but the ideas that we talk about on this channel is a bit much, or might be a bit beyond them or something, to open their loop, to open their questioning, it's called Is It All Relative? It's a blue book by the same author. Is It All Relative by Pierre Grimes. It's fantastic. Probably even get a PDF version that you can put on your Switch. So yeah, Is It All Relative? Fantastic starter philosophy book. And not just starter philosophy. I'm planning on rereading it again. In fact, if you do end up with some sort of Wi-Fi access, jump into the chat or the Discord and let me know. And so we could start reading that book together. If you pick up that Is It All Relative book, we can jump in and read that again. It's a good one. I have a friend who that was his introduction to philosophy. You can't see it on Amazon. Let's fix that problem. Is It All Relative? Pierre Grimes. Looks like there's a version on the Internet Archive. So there's a free PDF that you can read. Okay. Oh, and there's a second section that you get for free with the book on analogy, and that's really worthwhile too. Understanding analogy, and it's a bunch of questions, so it's like a little workbook at the end, which is pretty awesome. So the book's fantastic. There's a PDF on the Internet Archive. You can't download the PDFs anymore. You can only borrow them. But if you're good at computers, I'm sure there's a way of downloading it. Amazon.com. Okay, so let's put in UK. I see it on the .com website, but yeah, Amazon.com.uk. Is It All Relative? Oof, paperback is £42. Well, I'm sure you can find a cheaper one. %100% rating. That doesn't look like the right book either. It's on YouTube. It's on biblio.co.uk. Yeah, I'm just Googling it and I can find a bunch of different UK sites that sell it. Yeah, are there any philosophers that I know that live in the UK? I'm not sure. But yeah, Biblio and Amazon and eBay. The Noetic Society itself, you could probably order it from the publisher. You get a PDF. You'll find it. I believe in you. So opening the loop and then closing the loop, coming back to with your art, with your understanding, with your seeing to complete it. Remember, We can wake up from our problems. We can unzombify ourselves. That's closing the loop. And to bring it back to the reflection on the music, that is what I was doing on the weekend. Realizing that for some people, they've already had an open loop. They want to play the dialectic game, which requires closing the loop. You got to finish the song. Anyway, that was neat. Next time, we're going to see the significance of doing that. What's going to happen? Oh, look at that. It's only one page to go. What happens if you do return home with the elixir to close the loop? Will it go well? Will it go poorly? What's going to happen? That is the teaser, trailer, what do you call it? Cliffhanger for next time. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry for closing the stream a bit early because OBS is being silly. And yeah, thank you once again. Let's see if I can have my sound effects. Yep. See you soon.